Hello, everyone. Good, this thing's on. Hi, my name's Sean Oster. Let's get to the next slide. There we go. You are hopefully looking for high-speed RIA development with the Microsoft Silverlight Toolkit. My name's Sean Oster. I'm a program manager on the Silverlight Toolkit team at Microsoft. And let's get rocking. There's lots of cool new stuff coming. First, a refresher on what the Silverlight Toolkit is for anyone that doesn't know. The Silverlight Toolkit contains a bunch of controls that we iterate on quickly. It's sort of our agile delivery vehicle. It ships professional themes, so you can style your application in XYZ way. And we put a lot of effort into these themes. Samples. We actually include a lot of samples on how to use these controls, how you can use them in a basic scenario, what the different properties are, as well as more advanced things, such as how do I really template a tree view? How do I chain hierarchical data templates together? Things like that, they're in there. And of course, it's full source, it's open source, and we ship source and unit tests inside of the toolkit. And how we deliver that is we release frequently. We release every 6 to 8 weeks. We take community feedback. We fold that in. We look at bugs. We look at forums. We talk to you at conferences. And we flip it around 6 to 8 weeks later. Sometimes we miss the 8-week mark, might go 10 weeks, but we try to really turn the crank on these things. And like I said, it's all open source. Grab the code, change it, party on it, learn from it, and do what you like. I want to explain a little bit about the life cycle of Toolkit. This will sort of crop up as you start playing with the new bits between Silverlight 2 and Silverlight 3 beta. New controls come into the toolkit, and we get an idea, we see a need in the marketplace, and they end up in the toolkit. We release every 6 to 8 weeks. We get the feedback, and it does this sort of cycle thing. As controls come into the toolkit, they have these quality bands. Experimental, we're just trying stuff out, see what you think of them. Preview, I know we've solidified on them a little bit. Stable, they're starting to rock. And mature, they're baked, they're fully baked. As they go through this cycle, we don't need to iterate them on it as much anymore. They don't need to be in the toolkit. You don't need a new version every 8 weeks. So we start to push them into the SDK, which obviously does not rev nearly as much. Every time there's a major release, that's when you get an SDK, and that's when you really need those controls. So things will migrate from a new state into the toolkit, then into the SDK, and then eventually, for the really core controls, the ones that everyone uses the control. It's like a basic core scenario control. Then that might move into the framework. And if it's in the framework, it'll always be there. You can download it. As soon as you do that, your 4 meg, 8-second install is right there. But any control that's ever passed through the toolkit, and some that haven't, all the source will always be in the toolkit. So you don't have to crack open Reflector to go look at the source. You can actually open it up in Visual Studio. So, at MIX, what have we done for MIX? We've done quite a few things. We didn't think we did, then we put this slide together and realized there was quite a few stuff we did. Number one that we want to call out, because it was community-driven entirely, was we had 80-plus votes on CodePlex, where we released the toolkit. And everyone said, where's the Visual Basic samples? Here they are. We now have Visual Basic samples for you guys. We have 2 new themes, Bubble Cream and Twilight Blue. You guys can thumbs up, thumbs down them, but they're in there for you to play with. We're now an MSI-based installer. So instead of a zip file that you grab and unzip and wonder where to put it, now we have a full-on MSI. Grab it, install it, and the great thing about that is it flows into the next bullet point, which is we have solid design time support for all our controls. So after the install, look in your toolbox, there's the control. I've seen a few comments in the forums. They're like, how do I get this working? Why isn't it just there? It is now. It's there in Visual Studio 2008. It's in Blend 2, and it's even in Blend 3 Preview with full support in the property editors for all the good properties we have in there. And of course, the bread and butter of the toolkit are controls. We have some new controls. We have an accordion control. We have a domain up-down, a time up-down, time picker. 2 sort of fun ones, layout transformer and transitioning content control. And we've rounded out our charting offering by adding an area series. And I'll go into more depth on those. We also have some new controls that are sort of coming with the SDK. These controls, we didn't want to ship them exactly with the toolkit because we want to reach a broad audience. All these controls here are Silverlight 3 only. So if you go looking for them with Silverlight 2 SDK, you won't find them. You'll find them in the Silverlight 3 SDK. They're all preview quality, so please give us feedback. Let us know what you like, don't like. File some bugs on them. Let us know, please. And these are more of your line of business centered applications. You want to get a full application rocking really quick. This is where you can go. You have a child window, and I'll cover these a little bit more in detail. Navigation support with deep linking, which is awesome because I really hate going to any browser, plug-in based thing, and you hit back and you jump out 15 pages. A data pager, I'll show you some of that. We fully support the Silverlight 3 validation. It's baked into all these controls. We have 3 controls that you can work with that validation. Description viewer, error summary, field label. We have a data form, which is a great way to iterate on some controls or on some editing of your objects. Data grid enhancements, and of course, all the source code is in the toolkit. So let's get into actually some meat. Accordion. Accordion is your basic collection of expanders. It supports expanding up, down, left, right. That's before you had to sort of hack it together yourself with 3 or 4 expanders. Now you can just sort of put it all together right there. And the great thing is they work in conjunction with each other. You close one, the other one opens. You can have them sort of bounce around. You can style them. You can do whatever you like. Using it's pretty simple. It's like a lot of things in Silverlight. You have an accordion. An accordion contains accordion items. And everything in the accordion item is content. So whatever content you like. Now here, the first accordion item has an image in it. The other 2 have just text blocks. But you can put whatever you like in it. Domain up, down. This is a funny control. I'm excited to show you a demo about this because right now it's a very boring looking control. It's pretty much a single line list box. Sort of like a numeric up, down. You push up, you push down, it flips to the next value. But you can template it, you can style it, you can do your designer magic on it. Very simple to use. We have some XAML. We have some properties here. Is cyclic. That's whether or not flips, wraps around. And if you're January and you push up just to go to December. Whether or not you can edit it. And if you can edit it and enter a value that's not in that list, what should it do? You can have it fall back. Say if they type in something that doesn't make sense, I want you to go back to March. And you get this little control. Time up, down, and time picker. There's some hidden gems in these little controls here that are really useful. They allow freeform input, which I call out only because I really dislike hitting masked edit boxes, where you bump into these colons and these things you have to sort of tab around and work around. You can just type in it like a text box. It has time IntelliSense, basically showing you what value it's thinking you're gonna get. So if you look on the image in the lower left there, you'll see they've just typed in 12, but it's showing you what you're going to get is 12 p.m. Just a little hinting and just a little nice UX type of improvement there. The context aware, so based on where you are in the control, you push up, down, it rolls correctly. There's parsers, so you can adjust how it translates the input. I have a little demo to show you about some fun things you can do with that. And you can swap out the pickers. So the control on the left is your time up, down. The controls on your right are time pickers. It's basically a time up, down with an extra little button that shows you a pop-up. This pop-up contains some mechanism to select a time. These are the 2 that come in the toolkit, but you can write your own, you can make a cool clock, you can get crazy with it. Very simple to use. You can set minimum, maximum values. You can force the culture, and it respects that. You can set its initial value. There's a cyclic property. And one thing to call out is in the lower left XAML there, how I'm changing the pop-up. That's how you change what's going to show when they click on that little round clock. Next up is area series. Just like a line series, We're sort of excited about this simply because we now have chart parity with Excel. If you look at the top of the ribbon, we have all those charts. We don't have every chart, all the charts Excel does, but we do have the main ones that Excel does. And like all the charts, they're very easy to use. You have set a title. You see I went with sort of a monkey theme. I have two series here. Area charts tend to look better when you have multiple overlaying. And wiring them up is dead simple. Every series has an item source. Item source maps into your data. Chimpanzees and gorillas here are just key value pairs. Very simple data. Very quick to get this going. Layout transformer. Now, anyone that liked cartoons probably has a certain theme song in their head right now. And we actually discussed this name for a while, but this actually brings it in line with some of the other names you can find around inside of Silverlight. This was previously posted on David Anson's blog. So if anyone follows, he goes by Delay, is the name of his blog. He had it there for a long time. We decided it was very useful. We brought it into the toolkit, and now you can use it and know that we're unit testing it, and we're constantly going over it, and it's a blessed control. It supports matrix, rotation, scale, skew, transform, and translate transformations. This control is useful because Silverlight only has a render transform, which happens after all your layout's done. Layout transform does it before all your layout's done. And I'll show you a little bit about that if that's either boring you or not making much sense. Transitioning content control. This is sort of a fun little control. If you know much about the visual states inside of controls, you can animate the transitions from state to state. Well, when content changes, that's not really a state change. It's not like mouse down to mouse up. It's content has changed. But sometimes you want to animate that. You want to do cool things, fade ins, fade outs, swirls, whatever. This control makes it really easy to take, instead of a content control, take a transitioning content control. And then you can add animations to that. And here are those two new lovely themes. Bubble Cream is one of those decisive or divisive themes. Some people love it, some people hate it. You can add that to your feedback at the end. And Twilight Blue is a good solid blue theme. Now we get to actual code, some fun stuff. Maybe. There we go. You ever seen anything? There we go. Okay. So let's go over here, and I'm just going to show you that I dragged and dropped some of these controls from the toolkit into a little application just to show you how they work. Here's your basic accordion. And as you can see, all three accordion items are open at the same time. There's a property to change that so you can have one close before the other one opens, or they open and close simultaneously. It's really easy to work with. Domain up, down. This is that incredibly boring up, down. It's useful. It's in your toolbox. You have it. But just to show you it doesn't have to be exactly that boring, we're going to go all the way back here and show you one of the samples that's in our sample browser. Remember, this is just a domain up, down, but this one looks much cooler. If you can fit it on the screen here. Well, trust me, there's an arrow like this over here. It's sort of a virtual arrow right over there. But this is just a domain up, down. Here's a spinner. Here's the button. Here's your content. There's another one over here. But with a little bit of love on the control, you have a very cool looking thing. And so you only have to worry about designing it. You don't have to worry about transitioning or moving for the item source and doing the binding and having to roll your own. So all the boring logic is there for you. You can just open it up and blend and have fun. I wish I could get to these settings over here because we have some pretty fun ones to do. Instead of a slide in, slide out, it'll flip or it'll fade in and out. But this is in the, it's a pretty full screen. Oh. There. I know you really want to see that other button, don't you? It's so that's that. I just like that because it shows how you can take sort of a pretty normal control and really change it. Just close that one. Close that. Let's go back to our application. Here's that time up down. One cool thing about this is I've changed the format. If you've ever looked at the date picker control that we have in the toolkit or in the SDK, you have short and long. That's it. You can do short date, long date. With time, we wanted to expand that. So you can do your own custom dates or custom formats. And here I've done something very odd and put the PM and AM first. But it still respects it. You can go up and down. And it's bumping into these minimum and maximum limits here. So that's what you're seeing at that point. And if you want to see that IntelliSense, I've said I want 6. And it said, no, you can't have 6 because you've set a minimum, which is 2. So again, that's right out of the box. It's a nice little way to tell your users what's about to happen. Here's the time picker. Here's that other selection mode here. You can style it and play with it and do whatever you like, and it still has the same time up-down mechanism. So as you see, the cursor knows what to roll. But it's also free form. I can just delete, and I'm not worrying about some colon that's in the way. Here's area series. Like all of our charts, it supports animations of data points right out of the box. So all I'm doing is adding a number. I'm adding a random number to some of these data points here. I didn't do anything in blend. I didn't do any special transitions. And it automatically just animates. Apparently there's a lot of monkeys there. Here is that layout transformer. I just put a simple rotation on it. And it's still obviously fully usable control still. And if you saw Scott's keynote, which I'm sure most of you did, it's great with Silverlight how you can still use the controls and they still work no matter what you do to them, no matter if they're animating or moving or whatever, and this is another control to help you interact with that experience. And then the last control in the toolkit is the transitioning content control. And by default, it shifts with an up, a down, and a fade. I went ahead and did a little slide effect. So now I click, and I get this nice little slide effect. And again, very easy to use, very easy to plug in. I'll show you some of that XAML here. So let's go back over to here. We don't need this style. So here's accordion, which you saw. Domain up down, which you saw. Time. Oh, here's a cool thing I want to show you actually about the time up down. I know it doesn't seem super exciting right away. What I'm going to do is time up down supports parsers. So a parser, and a quick way to add some unique functionality to your application, is to come over here, and you just create a new, very small class, descends from time parser. So you can see it descends from time parser here. I call it session time parser. And it just has 3 arguments. It takes text, whatever they typed in, whatever culture they're in, and then whatever date you think that they meant. It's pretty simple. And by default, if you say there's no result, I return false, you're saying I didn't do anything, I didn't convert anything, continue doing whatever you want to do. But I do want to do something. Instead, when they enter a session name here at Mix, I want it to insert the actual time. So it's just a simple switch. Save that. Come back over here. We'll just add it in somewhere. Ignore the formatting on that one. It looks like it's not too bad as far as XAML. You have parsers, you have a collection of them. And the reason there's a collection versus a single one is you can chain these things together. You can have 15 of them. You can mix and match. You can do cool things with them. But we're just going to use this one for now. So we've wired that up, run it. We can come in here. It still works like normal. Or we can type in a session. And as you can see, it's turned it to 1145. It's a pretty cool little control. So that is that parser right there. And I also wanted to show you the transition, how it looked in Blend. You know how, reload that, for that sliding content control right here, or the transitioning content. If we look at it, and we sort of crack it open, we look at its template. Let's come down here. You can see it actually, all these four here are out of the box. There's normal, up, and down. I went ahead and I just duplicated down, created one called slide. And the way it works is there's pretty much two content holders. And it just takes two contents, takes the new content, puts it in the current, takes the old content, puts it in the previous, and now you have two controls that you can animate between. So you can swirl them, you can, whatever you want to do with them. So as you can see, when I click on previous, previous is actually right here. Let's see if you can see that. So there's one here, and there's one here, and that's how it gets that slide effect. It comes in this direction. And it's very easy to use. So those are the new Toolkit controls right there. Now we're going to go back over and look at some of the more line of business controls. Oh, actually there's one more demo I want to show you just because it's cool. And I couldn't actually figure out how to work it into a control. But when we do releases, we go through and do something called ad hocing. We take all our controls, we put them together, we mash them up, we try to break them. We try to do everything weird you can think of. Well, one of our devs did something very weird that he could think of, and it's very cool. And it applies because it uses our charts. So here's your basic data grid. You know, it's pretty boring or sad, depending on which stock you own in here. And then you come up here, like, oh, that's neat, but I want to visualize it. That is a... I really like this control. Even cooler, let's just think optimistically after all the good news this week. Let's go way optimistic. Or maybe, you know, just slightly optimistic. So, and as you move through the rows, you can see it's highlighting each bar. So, excuse me? This is using actually the Silverlight 3 perspective transform that was announced. So it's using that. And it's just, right now it's sort of, the reason we don't have the full source for it is because it was sort of hacked together. It's all very fixed positions on everything. But it could be cleaned up. This was done in a day. So it's just using transforms. Just transforming it. As you, just like we did with the tree view, how I rotated it a little bit. Same thing with the grid. And same thing with the charts. And then it's just wiring it all together. So that was just a little fun bit. Oh, and I'll show you the full bubble cream because everyone should see it. Bask in the bubble cream. Twilight blue, a little more blue. Let's go back over to the... Okay. So these are the sort of line of business style controls. And there's some very cool stuff in here. First, we have child window. It's your basic modal window light box. used for confirmation dialogues, image viewers, mini wizards. Another cool thing about it is the way you use it is you actually descend, instead of a user control, it's a child window. Sometimes you don't want to worry about that. It actually has a default template available inside of Visual Studio and Blend. So you can just say, add new item. No, I don't want a user control. I want a child window. It's right there out of the box for you to start using. And that's actually the default template it gives you. A little OK button, a little cancel, and it's fairly nicely styled. So you can rapidly prototype an application, throw one of these up there, and not be too embarrassed when you walk in to show a demo. There we go. Frame and page. You should start using this right away if you're doing any Silverlight 3 apps. Deep linking is super important and super great when it works. Back-forward button support, obviously that's the whole reason you have deep linking. It's as you move around, it adds it to your browser stack, and you're good to go. There's a frame control. You drop a frame down. It's pretty much like a content placeholder. And then into that frame, you load your pages. It's a very simple mechanism. You just call a method, navigate to, say frame, navigate to this page. You give it a relative URL, and it navigates to it, adds it to the stack. Same thing here. This is also available as a default template. Right-click, add new. You can say add a new Silverlight page, and then you get a page and start working with it. Again, it's just a great addition. Oh, and there's also a Silverlight navigation application project template. It's a mouthful, but I'll show you. So out of the box, you can just create a whole new application project that has a lot of sort of best practices on how to use this and a fairly decent looking template right out of the box. You've seen variations of it probably all week. Data pager. It's just an easy way to page through big amounts of data. You can hook up a data pager to your data, but then you need like a third party, you need something else. A list box, a chart, a data grid, it just helps you move through large data sets. And I'll show you something more interesting with that. And you can adjust the page size, you can adjust the buttons, you can hide them, show them through properties without having to fully retemplate it, which is nice. You just want to quickly turn something off, and you don't want to hear that you have to go into Blend and spend 5 minutes retemplating it. Validation controls. These are controls that work tightly with the new validation that came out with Silverlight 3. The validation is great. A lot of people have asked for it. These controls make it even better. They allow you to take metadata that you've attached to your business model, to your view model, whatever paradigm you're using, and then link it up to these controls to reflect it in the user interface. And I'll show you a little bit about that. Data form. Data form is sort of the darling child of this release here. Give it a business object. Say, here's my item source. And it automatically builds out all the fields and all the editors. And it supports paging. And it supports back and next and delete and add new. And it supports all this very quickly. Again, I know not many people actually like to sit down and design these things. It's not the most fun thing to do. And no one likes to design a data entry form. The great thing about these is you can drop one on, you get something that's usable right off the bat. You can show it to a client, you can work with it and say, look, you can edit your data, and then you can go back and build it up. Now I'm going to remove fields, now I'm going to change things around. Or you can get completely crazy, drop it entirely, take everything that's in the middle of that frame there and replace it with your own custom controls from whatever vendor or from us. But you still get all the paging, you still get all the editing, you still get delete and add. And we've enhanced the data grid. We added row grouping. So as you can see in this image here, we're grouping by country and then by state. So that was not available before, but it is now. We have cell level validation, working with the Silverlight 3 validation engine. So, and on this example here, we actually haven't done anything custom at all. It just took an int. It knows it's an int. Someone tried to put some string into it. Wasn't happy with that. It showed you the default validation UI. No designer had to do this. This is what you get. It also has row validation. Sometimes different fields party together, and you want them check this value and that value, make sure they're all working together in conjunction. So that's what row level validation is. Okay, let's show you some of these. So first, I mentioned the navigation sample application. So if you were just to come up and say File, shouldn't be running. File, New Project, and there it is, Silverlight Navigation Application. If you say OK to that, then you get something that looks very much like this, minus the word census over here, and minus this change. But home, about, as you move through this is the page, this is the frame and page navigation. So I'm on home, I go to about, oh, I want to go back home. Hit the back button, and I went back to home. So it's very smooth, very seamless, very easy to use. So that's the page and the frame, and I'll actually show you a little bit what that code looks like here. So we come up here to the main page. So here's your frame. You just drop a frame on your page, or in your application, and you set its source, and it goes and looks for that URL, and it's right in here. You've got views. These are all these different pages that we have, and it just pulls it in. And then if you want to navigate to the next page, we have these buttons up here. These buttons correspond to those tabs that you sort of saw at the top. And they all go to the same click handler, but they have a different tag. It's the classic tag hack to push some data in to tell it where to go. We flip over code. It's one simple line call. After we extract out the actual URL. That's what those two lines are just doing. They're just taking that tag property, pulling it out, and figuring out what that string is. But once you have that, then you just say navigate. You have to create a new URI because it is a locator. It's a uniform resource. And you say it's relative because it's inside your zap. So that's why it's relative, obviously. And navigate. And then it loads then the control for you. So that's sort of the whole magic of frame and page and those controls right there. So those are those controls, frame and page. I showed you that's navigation. I wanted to actually do, it's so simple I didn't even have to prep a little bit of code. I'm just going to do a quick child window. So we just come up here. Oh, that will not work though. File, actually let's go here. Let's add a new item. We want a child window. We're going to call this a confirmation dialog. And if we, oh, well, ignore that. And so we have this, little child window right here. Then if you want to call it and you actually want to use it, you come up to, let's put it on the home page. Let's give ourselves a little button. Click. And then let's say, show dialog, flip over, and let's give it a width so it doesn't get crazy big. You can hide this to give us some more real estate. Same with this. So just a basic button. Come back over here. We create a new confirmation dialog. We call it dialog, new. And then we want to show it. That's all the code you need to wire up this little lightbox / modal dialog. Click show, and there it is. And it's a fairly good looking dialog. And if you want, you can also, there's a dialog result on this, which is useful to know if you want to know if they hit cancel or OK. So it's already built in there. So that is the child window. Let's close that down. Now the data form. Actually, let's do a data pager. Data pager is a good sort of simple thing to look at, but we can do something fun with it. So I have this list of data. It's population data by state. I put it in an area chart. When I first put it in there, well, here, I'll actually show you how annoying it looks. Just so you get the full effect, you know. So we'll come over here to the census page. And we can hide this out. We will just hide all that. Oh, it seems to have disappeared. But that's okay. Because we can just grab this here, take the item source, and we hook it up to the population by state. Run that. Click on census. Not very readable. You know, it's great, all that data, but not much you can do with it. What we'd like to do is to be able to page through it in chunks. So this is where the data pager comes in. This is how you would use this control. So what we've done, you know, we can flip back over. As you can see, we just have a chart. All right, with the area series chart. And I'm just binding it to the state and the population. State's on the bottom, obviously, population on the side. And I've wrapped it in a theme as well. I've used, you know, all the themes in the toolkit come as separate assemblies that you can wrap controls inside of. So I've wrapped the chart in it to match that sort of black and gray theme. Again, a good way to get something rapid to prototype. You can grab a theme, get something in front of someone. So now that we have this theme, I also added a data pager. It's a very simple control. I just dragged it from the toolbox. In Blend, you can grab it from the toolbox. Data pager, saying its size is 10. Flip back over here. Don't need this data anymore. Keep that like that for now. So the way a data pager works is it needs to be wrapped in a paged collection view. This is a new thing for you to look out for when you're using this. Page collection view can take any I enumerable, so any list, any collection of objects. Take these collection of objects, you feed it into a page collection view, and then you wire that up to your data pager. We also wire it up to the control that you want to be paged. So it sort of sits in the middle. So you can see we have the pager here, and I've wired it up to my page by state. And then I come down here to the area series, and I wire that up to its item source. And the way you data bind everything in Silverlight, that's an items control. So they're both bound to the exact same data. I run it. Go back over to our little tab. Much easier to look at now. Didn't have to do anything special with the chart. Didn't have to do anything special. I just grabbed a data pager. And I can page through it. I'm not sure if you can see it because it's so tiny. But as I'm moving through this, these little points here actually animate. It knows that its content is changing. And so therefore, you'll see them fade briefly and then readjust to where they belong. There you go. So again, all for free, all in the charts. And this is just a cool little way to add some paging without having to think too hard. So that is the data pager, which brings us to the really fun one, the data form. Now, data form, we're going to actually have to pull off some information here because this resolution is too small. We all know what that looks like, and it was wonderful. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking some data, some very similar data that you just saw, and I'll show you what that looks like. But it's just some basic business object, and I'm wiring up this huge collection of cities to a data form. I haven't done any styling or templating or anything at all. We watch the spinning circle for a while. Let's do its thing. Go back over. It's still cutting off. Where is it? Can I still? So now it's built out this data pager. It's built out, it's just like a data grid, but it's more in sort of a form view. I can edit it. I think that's actually in New Mexico or wherever you like. I think the city was established in 1745. And I am getting cut off. There's a save button here that we're going to fix. We're going to bring that into view. Let's do that in Blend, though. We've had too much Visual Studio for a while. So this is the Blend 3 preview that you're seeing right here. We're going to open up this project. And you can see it's the same thing. That's why Blend and Visual Studio are great cohorts together. So we want to go over to our view. I want to come down here to the census page. Open that up. Now it's trying to take the minimum amount of space, which is why you get this very teeny little view. What we're going to do is we're going to delete the data pager. Don't need that. Get rid of that. Save it. Run. Hopefully this works. Earlier it was doing something interesting. This would be the interesting thing. That's okay. Since they update back and forth, you can use them back and forth. Changes made in one, work in the other. Come back over here. There, I've made some more room. Now we can actually see some things. We can edit. We can change. We can save. Data form. You can add new items. Save that. Or, of course, you can delete items. That's not very exciting, so I'll delete that. So that's the basic data form. And it responds to your metadata. I mentioned that before, so I wanted to just briefly touch on how you wire that up when you're quickly creating something. So that data form was bound to something called city data. Ooh, city data. And we're going to say that when people edit this, that the city is required. You have to have a city. So all you have to do there is add an attribute, the required attribute. If you don't see this attribute at first, it's because you have to make sure that you add system component model data annotations up into your using, and then you get these attributes. So that's all we had to do. We say it's required, run it again, flip back over, and now when I go into edit mode, you can see how it's bold. It responded to the fact that it knows it's required. It bolded it out. In fact, it knows it enough that if I delete, hit save, whoa, apparently it was okay with saving that. Okay. I did the same thing to state. State is also a required field. And you get this little error summary. That control I mentioned a little far back, there's 3 controls that play nicely with validation. Error summary is one of them, and this is what it does. It takes the errors it finds, rolls them up into a nice UI here. Again, this is out of the box, and it tells you the state field is required. I didn't write that text. It figured it out. I come back here. I said, okay, I'll give you your state back. Tab away. It's back. We don't mess with Texas. It gets all upset. So now we're good. Well, that was great. That was wonderful. We need even more information. So see, here's where I said the state was required. We also want to give a little bit of information. So another attribute you can add to your model is display. You come in here and say display. And there's you can see this IntelliSense here. There's a bunch of different aspects to display that you can set, different properties. Whether or not to auto-generate the field. Say your object has something that you don't want people to see, you can turn it off right here. You can hide it. This is a very model view model, if you guys are familiar with that. Whether or not to have filters on it, a description, and that's what I want to set right now. So the description. No, that's please put a state. But you can set order, you can group fields so they all appear in their own little section. You have a short name, so when you can find space, you can set that. But we're just going to care about this one for now. Recompile, come back over here, look at this. Now what that did by adding that is if you look, we have this new icon right here that automatically appeared. This is called a description viewer. We didn't have to do anything to get this to appear. It just automatically appeared in data form. But you can use this control outside of data form. And that's where I'm calling this out, is you have this error summary, you have description viewer, you have field label, which is what's making this bold. All these things are playing together inside of data form. So we hover over this, we get our little tooltip, and we're ready to go. Hit save. And there's a lot of things that you can do with data form. Data form, and again, that's just the very stock data form control. And then from there, you can build it up. And you've probably been to a few sessions where you've seen this quite a few this week. One thing I wanted to call out is it doesn't have to be used with a server-side component. That's why I'm re-mentioning it here. You don't have to plug it into an ASP.NET server. You can have a PHP backend. You can have whatever you want in your backend. You don't have to have. Is that a question I see? Conditional in what sense? I did not have that plan, but if we have it in time in the Q&A, I'll see if I can whip that together. So that's putting it all together. So that's why I bring up data form in that you can use it not in a whole ecosystem. You can start a project and not have to worry about the back end. So if you're a designer or you're prototyping, you can just stay client side. So that is the data form. Now, the data grid stuff, I already have all these great samples in our sample browser, so I wanted to show you what they look like. And also, again, to point out the fact that because this is the sample browser that we ship in the toolkit, all the source code that you see here is available. You can go and look, and how do they do that? That's pretty cool. I wonder how that works. It's all in here. So let's go find data grid, which should be under data. And here, C#, VB. That was what we added. So now you can see it in both. Let's go over. So here's a cool scenario that I like. It's data grid and data form playing together. And again, it's harder to see the full thing, but there's a data form right here that you should recognize by now. As I move through here, they're interacting with each other. And as you can see, here's the grouping that I talked about in action. How it respects when you drag and drop the columns. Again, that's all out of the box, and it plays nicely. Again, I update this, updates over there. They're all bound to the same data. I also wanted to show, I showed you that. So I talked about styling. Again, here's that style that you can do with very basic domain up-downs. We can ignore that. So how to use all these controls is, here's what I want to show you. So here is the up and down and default transitions. So if you look at this text here, and I hit default, it's just fading in, fading out. Up goes that direction, and down goes that direction. And it's just one property that you set. Up transition, down transition, default. Come back over here. Look at this sample app. I seem to have blown through all my controls very quickly. We get a nice long QA, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, those are the controls. We were 10 minutes a little bit early. So let's start a Q&A. Multi-series data. He's asking if there's multi-series data binding on our charts. And do you want to explain a little bit what that is? Okay. Uh-huh.
So basically, you just define all the attached property, and then you define your own item store. It looks at our collection, and then through our attached property, we create a new line series, and then add it to the actual chart. We're kind of hoping that would be kind of built into the series. The series collection is just kind of a generic collection.
Right. Let me try to see if I can restate that for everyone here. So here, I have chimpanzees and gorillas, but I sort of hard-coded those series. What you're looking for is a way to have a collection of, say, all the different primates pulled from a database, and then just bind directly to the series, or to the chart. Right, and to build it out. We don't have that right now. I mean, you can always iterate through without direct binding. You do a for each on it, and then add each series one at a time. But we don't have actually, the best way to get that feature in there is add it on Codeplex. I think I've seen this question. Yep, that's you. Get your buddies to vote. I will say that for any feature you didn't see or that you want, get your buddies to vote. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sounds like you and David got that dialogue going. Yeah, get some votes, and we iterate every 6 to 8 weeks, so maybe you'll see it. Yeah, let's just show that page to everyone. As long as we have. Oh, well, see, there you go. Apparently, there's great improvements coming for you. I think that guy saw your hand first. I knew this question was going to happen. How do you localize attributes? That's a very good question. You localize attributes. You'll know how to do that in a blog post in the coming days. How's that? Yeah, actually, my blog, which is just engine4.com. There you go. You, sir. And so the way you do that, and that's what I was talking about, how you can build up iteratively on your data form. So when you first bind to an object, you're going to get standard data form input controls. There are actually special controls called data form text, data form calendar. If you want something more advanced, like a domain up-down or a autocomplete or something like that, pulling in from other values, what you do, and I'll show you, is you create pretty much like a user control of just your data entry form, using your controls, using whatever you like there, wiring it up that way. So you pretty much have to create your own entry form for that. So if we come over here, let's go like this. Look at our sample browser. Look at data form. This is what you're asking about is basically a template-driven data form. Now it's hard to show this one as much, and I don't want to show you the XAML here because it might make our brains explode. But basically, you create your own code in its own, you call it a custom editor, and then you bring that in to the data form. Here, I'll show you. Actually, I got it. We have time. Let's open up another copy. Win7, by the way, is great. Come over here. We will look at the actual source to the sample. And I come over here to the data forms. And here we have contact editor. So as you can see, I'll hide this. This is basically just a bunch of, will this work? Oh, big gray blocks. Come back over here. And that's the problem with not updating right before mix. So here is basically using whatever controls you like. Text box, text blocks, not using the native built-in one. And then you just take, this is just a user control. And then to actually use it, to insert it, you go to the template. I'll scroll down here. I'll give us some space so you can see what's going on. I said, here's my data form. Another cool thing about data form I didn't mention is you can have different templates for different modes. If you're in edit mode, if you're in insert mode, or view mode. So you may want to show fields when you're adding that you don't want to show in view mode. So you can create separate templates for each one of those modes. And here we're just editing the edit template. And we're saying when you go into edit mode, go here to this user control and use that. And we're just binding to the data context, and that's how you still get the rich paging. Yes. Yep. So it's sort of 3 levels. Out of the box, automatic, or you can use sort of the built-in controls, or you can roll your own. Okay. In the back? Excuse me, I can't quite hear from back there. All right, there's a microphone right there if you wouldn't mind.
You had the Silverlight Toolkit 2.0 available on the web where you can actually see the sample you just showed.
Uh-huh.
Is it available also on the web?
It is. Both the Silverlight 2 and Silverlight 3. So they're both on the web for you to grab. I'll go back corner. On the data pager? Oh, the frame navigation. Okay, yeah. That's a good question. Right now, ooh, that's a very good question. I'll find out about that one. Yes. So the question is, when you're doing page navigation, can you pass in more than just basically the page you want to go to? And you can. That whole section after the hash, because the way it works is it inserts a hash with sort of a URL, and it uses that to parse out and figure out which page to go to. You can add whatever you like to that. In fact, there's another component called a URI mapper you can add into your resources and sort of do custom mapping. And you can say, it can be demo page / a person's name / person's car. So you're doing an auto insurance website. And then you yourself can take that value and parse it, do whatever you want with it, or have it automatically parse into key value pairs. And then from there, navigate to the correct control, navigate to the correct location. And you have an event as you come into that page to do that. So yeah, that part's called the fragment if you're looking for something to search on, and it's very easy to use. I'll go to the blue shirt gentleman. Sorry. Okay.
When I switched to the edit template, or I guess just before I did it, I'm getting a lot of mileage out of the automatic, I'm doing everything, and then I get that last thing, I can't quite do what I need. Am I starting over with my example, or do I have some way of getting the example to be generated so far?
That's a good question. For those that didn't hear, you have this nice builds it for you form, and then you want to party on it just a little bit. You don't want to throw it all away. You want to do a little bit to it. Much like scaffolding, if you're a Rails guy, you can get some scaffolding going. Right now, the answer is you have to start over. That is the question. But feature, all these controls are in what we call the preview quality band, which means they're not locked. And by all means, yell, scream, beg, and plead. And if that's an issue, and when I was doing samples, I'm like, that would be so great if I could do that. So I totally see your point.
You've all done that equivalent in ASP, right? You source, copy, paste, and discard, and package.
Yep. Exactly. Some scaffolding support, basically. Okay. I will get on that. And then go to Coplex, file an issue on it. And when it's open, actually, let's see. Is there something cool there for us to work with now? Oh, nothing cool yet. So, right there, the gentleman back there. Uh-huh. You noticed that. I'm glad someone did. What it did is I didn't fill out. Once I entered some of the display properties, it stopped auto-generating all the display properties. To get that back, I would go in and set its name in that field. I go there, add the name, and it comes back. Right. You want me to, I can give you the good news or the bad news. I would love it if you could run Silverlight 2 and Silverlight 3 at the exact same time. Because when we're testing and developing it, you want to see both. You want to make sure it's consistent. The good news, the good bits, is you can compile for Silverlight 2 and compile for Silverlight 3 on the same machine. So what we actually do in our automated build process is we compile 2 and 3 on a machine that doesn't even have Silverlight on it. So it's possible to generate it that way and then push it off to like an automatic testing machine. You can also run zaps that are made for Silverlight 2 in Silverlight 3. And that sort of helps. You don't have to recompile it for Silverlight 3. You just runs and opens. Does that make sense? Yes. So yeah, you can go install Silverlight 3 beta, go to any Silverlight website, and it'll continue to work. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Right. The tools are, version 2 or 3. Now, if you have, like, say, Silverlight 3 beta on your machine, and you compile, and you push it out, don't expect someone with Silverlight 2 to be able to use it, or see it, obviously. It doesn't roll back that way. There's actually one of the devs on my team, Jeff Wilcox, has a great blog post about how to compile Silverlight 2 and Silverlight 3 on the same machine. So, yeah, just look up Jeff Wilcox. I think his name is pretty much the top search result. Oh. Do you have to test the MIME type? Not right now. Right now it's, yeah. And when we get closer to RTW release to web, then more details around that will emerge. But right now you don't have to test. Oh, there we go. Can you support? Oh. Attachments from your file system in Silverlight? That'd be cool. But it's also sort of a big security issue there. But there is a new file save dialog. So that there's always security issues with that type of stuff. If you can go directly into the file system, someone else can go directly into your file system and do very bad things with it. So there's not direct file access that way. Now you can have them select a file and then upload it to your server. And at that point, you haven't violated any trust issues. You've asked them for the file just like you upload to Flickr. And then you can attach it on the server, and then you can bring it down into your client-side application. So that's one way to do an attachment. but it still has to make that round trip. Gentleman in the back.
Do you have a list of what's available in Silverlight 3 beta and what's still in the toolkit?
What's sort of new in 3 versus in 2?
In the beta.
In the beta, okay. Yes, everything that's in the toolkit proper, if you go to the CodePlex, this beautiful green page here, if you go to that web page and you download, there's a Silverlight 2 toolkit and a Silverlight 3 beta toolkit. Basically, all the first controls I mentioned, accordion, domain up-down, time up-down, layout transformer, transitioning content control, those are both Silverlight 2 and Silverlight 3. Silverlight 3 controls, the ones that are beta only, are all the data controls, the sort of second set of controls. And those all use various Silverlight 3 mechanisms. They're all very bound into the validation engine, which is new with Silverlight 3. So that's why those controls are Silverlight 3 only.
So we'll still need to bring the toolkit DLL in Blend and so use those.
Yeah, we still have, we're definitely going to plan to support Silverlight 2. And right now it's still everyone's primary platform, so we try to really push that as hard as we can. Charting. While I'm being videotaped, let me do some insider leakage right here. I will be behind this podium if you need me. Yeah. I am right there with you. 100 times a day, I'm working on a sample application. I go to scroll, and I get frustrated. So just for those that didn't hear, scroll wheel support. We've thought about it. We've looked at it. We want to offer a solution that's better than what's out there. We don't want just to have another solution. So it's something we're definitely trying to address and evaluating. The full screen support is a big one. Because we might be able to work around it in certain situations, but the full screen, once you go full screen, we're pretty much blocked on the same thing everyone else is. We don't have magic hooks, unfortunately. That would be very cool. I'm curious at that point how an application that doesn't have focus would be able to capture input events. And just no, it's a good AI. That's why you ask questions. That's a good idea, but no dice. That is number one. Yeah. The question is an HTML control. And I hear this all the time. Clap, but also vote. Those are our digital claps there. So, yeah, by all means, please vote. We want to, again, offer something that's rich. And it's a hard one because if you have a control, do you want to recreate all the rendering issues and how full of HTML support do you want to bring into it? But it's something we're definitely have our eye on because we hear top 10 requests in HTML rendering content control. Now, do you want HTML? Is that what we're definitely looking for, or just something with rich syntax highlighting? Mm-hmm. So a reusing of existing HTML data, basically, without having to.
Yeah, it's the first thing. Customers can download reports, push reports, or SQL Server report services, whatever, and they would render inside a business application.
Yeah, that's vote. Please vote.
You can trick it right now, but put it back on the ad, and it's kind of all insecure. It's really ugly. Or either you have to be popular with this.
I agreed. I agree. It's something we hear a lot about. We're definitely want to find a good solution for that. Well, would you need to have an but you want like WYSIWYG preview? Yeah. Now, are you against showing that in like a pop-up, a separate, straight feeding it to a browser, an HTML window? I agree completely. But I have to, I have to offer that solution. You don't have to stare at my desktop anymore. Mm-hmm. You can save it to isolated storage, and I'm actually not as familiar with that feature, so don't quote me on all this as far as that goes, but definitely that's sort of on the peripheral for me. But I mean, you can definitely save into isolated storage and have it within your application, but I know when you want to go to their machine, it's important, especially now that we have out of browser. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the save as dialog. Yeah, I'm just not sure where everything goes with that one. So, well, that's what makes the Silverlight out of browser experience so cool. Is you're still sandboxed. That's why you don't have like a security prompt. Exactly. Exactly. Yes, sir. Okay. You want to erase the stack or remove an entry, basically. That's a good. I don't believe so. I think that would be a big security violation if you could remove versus add. But again, don't quote me on that one. We're still beta. Yeah. You should be able to go in and pull it. I'll see if there's a built-in mechanism for that. Or that'd be a great feature request, because building wizards is one of the things that's great for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've used that little child window dialog. You can make a nice little wizard out of that. Pop it up, navigate back and forth, still works in that dialog. So. Nope. Nope. And you have an event that when you get navigated to inside your control, so you can react when you're only in focus versus when you're being instantiated. So yeah, you don't have to do any memory management yourself. We have a few more minutes, 2 maybe. That's a good point. I know they're definitely getting pulled out of the visual tree. I mean, it's just actually when you have a user control, and you swap user control A with user control B, let's instantiate it, then you free it. So it's that's a good question. I'll find that one out. Again, a lot of good blog post ideas here. Yes. What about it? You'd like XPS support? That's a good question. Actually, my team member, David Anson, or Delay, has an XPS. If you go to his blog and research on it, he has some hacks around working with it. We don't have anything native in the Toolkit or SDK to allow you to do that, though. I agree, that would be a great control to have. Yeah, ever since Silverlight 1, printing. No printing yet. Printing, device driver, no direct printing. Not there yet. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. You could. And it's very similar to people that take the image and push it to the server and then generate a PDF from that, and then you can save that file. Same concept. Yes, sir. That's a good question. I know it's highly asked for. A lot of people want it, and therefore we're very interested in it. So I know there are discussions that are happening around it. Just how to do it, when to do it, if we should do it, that type of situation. So I agree. Incremental steps. Incremental steps. Yes, sir.
What about select range or multiple range on list box or combo box?
Multi-select?
Yeah.
If you'd like, put in a feature request, I say. We hear, again, we're hearing a lot of these things are very common, and that's great. The more we hear it, the better. So that's definitely on the radar. When, where, if, how, don't really know, but it's on the radar. Or at least we're open to it.
I think I saw one of the demos today, Silverlight 3, they were doing that.
Were they?
On multi. Did anybody else see that today? This box, yeah. This box has Yes.
Does it?
Yeah,
Cool.
oh, it is.
Then, okay. And I think I have time for one more. That gentleman there. Ooh, that'd be cool. Feature request. Coplex. Oh, sorry. The question was a ribbon control, basically. And we're always looking for new controls. If you see a control that we're lacking, please tell us what you just did, and I'll add it to the list. We have a huge list of controls, and it's trying to figure out which one to go first. So it's on. We know the ribbon would be cool, but do enough people want ribbon? So have you done much Silverlight and WPF work together? It's a heartbreaker because sometimes you have this rich, super rich platform in WPF. It's great. And you go to Silverlight, and Silverlight is we want to keep that download size small. We want to try to make it smaller every time. And so because of that, we're limited. We don't have the full set, the full ability of things. And so we have to really prioritize what features we let come into Silverlight because we still want to keep it small and fast. So porting things down from WPF to Silverlight isn't always as easy. Now going up, piece of cake. So I think that's all we have time for. We're running just a little bit over. So after the session, I'll be wandering around. But thanks for everyone for making it, since I know this is... Thank you.